Chemistry Room Fragrances is the perfect addition when elevating the vibe of any space. Whether if it's your home, car, or office, and something needs a quick refresh, our room fragrances provide that beautiful burst of fragrance with just one quick mist. Shop now at www.chemistryroomfragrances.com and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Chemistry Room Fragrances. Chemistry Room Fragrances. Smells so good.
Hey, girl. Hey, I was sitting here trying to share this out because this is going to be such a great conversation.
It is. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much just for joining me. You I just think you're the coolest, you're the dopest. And I was like, oh man, I need to bring Ro back because we kind of chat through social media, but I was like, no, I
Yes.
need to bring her back here. So thank you for accepting my invitation to return.
Thank you for having me again. And thank you for calling me the coolest and dopest. Can I clip that and share that with my kids
Yeah.
who probably don't think I'm the coolest and the dopest? But thank
Hey,
you.
you've got receipts and I'll vouch for you, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. What's up, everybody? This is Camille Essick, host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Tonight, we have someone that is just absolutely the coolest and the dopest. Roshanda Pratt is back here. So, you guys be sure to click, like, and share. Before we get anything just popping off and going, be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'm at Camille.Essick. Also on YouTube at Camille Essick Official. I am working to build my YouTube channel. So please go there and subscribe. I would truly appreciate it. And you know what? Good black men still exist because why? They are not all bad. So go right now to my Instagram page at Chemistry Room Fragrances and also with Good Black Men Official on Instagram. We have lots of merchandise available. Tonight's fragrance is brought to you by Chemistry Room Fragrances. I have a new fragrance out. It's called Island Kiss. It's an amazing room spray. We
Ooh.
got duos available. Lavender Vanilla is back in stock, you guys. Go get that right now. Also, my digital store on Etsy is available. Have merchandise there as well as all of my goody glam things on my Amazon store. So, with that being said, we're going to hop right into this conversation. Roshanda Pratt, first of all, girl, what is going on? How are you doing?
I am doing well. It's been an interesting couple of months in a good way. There's a lot of great things on the horizon, and a lot of things that are popping off. But I am just in a place of surrender, child. I'm to the point where I'm just like, you know what? Have your way, sir. You know the thoughts and plans that you have, and they are good. So I surrender.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for Khalil Megan for hopping in. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Those that are not familiar with your background role, can you let the listeners and viewers know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Roshanda Pratt, but I'm known in the digital streets as the Rose Show Live. I'm a video visibility coach and producer, empowering you to build a brand with video because your visibility is power. I spent 20 years working behind the scenes as a television news producer. So I take a lot of things that I learned behind the scenes as a television news producer in helping you to be seen, heard, and paid, and showing up with that camera confidence, shining your inner light so you can monetize your story.
I love it. So hopping right into helping those like myself, I want to hop into the conversation as far as branding for the introverted. I'm an
Mm,
introverted person. The fact that I'm even here doing this, sometimes it still surprises me.
I
Like,
love it. Mm-hmm.
microphone, I'm talking, but I still, when I get nervous, I will start talking very quickly. I have a tendency to hide behind posts or reels versus I admire people that get on social media and get right in the camera and talk, or they do these monologues for like 2 or 3 minutes, 10 ways to do this, 5 ways to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to do it, and it's just like this, and so I get so flustered, and I'm
Yeah.
like, screw it. So, can
Mm-hmm.
you speak to those like myself that want to be in front of the camera a little bit more, and how to kind
Yeah.
of break out of that shell?
First of all, I want to give you permission and everyone else who may have identified with what you just said that being nervous actually is your superpower.
How?
It's your superpower because it lets you know as an indicator that you still care.
Mm.
The fact that you get nervous is an indicator that it shows that I want to show up as my best self. I want to be able to deliver valuable content. I want to be able to present something in a really succinct way that people would resonate with them and that they will identify with. So instead of looking at nervousness as a bad thing or as a clue that, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing this because of all the butterflies and how I'm feeling, what if we flip that narrative and we look at it as our superpower? I have worked 20 years behind the scenes as a television news producer, right? And I still get nervous. Matter of fact,
Woo!
I did a TV interview this week and I was like fumbling all over my words. Afterwards, I was so mad at myself because I got in my head about something and I just was like, oh my gosh, that was not my best work, my best presentation. And the anchor texted me afterwards and said, man, Roshanda, you did a great job. You really delivered it, which also tells me that a lot of times what we get in our head about, the people that we're coming to serve are not even thinking that or even see that, right? And so that's why I tell people, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, to really lean into embracing progress over perfection every single time. So let's flip it on its head. Fear is not fear. Nervousness is just an indicator that you want to do something really well. And then embracing the fact that I am just going to get better every single time I do this. If I get 10% better every time, by the end of the month, I'm 300% better.
I love that. One of the things that you said, perfection, and with social media,
Yeah.
there's this push that it has to be spot on, it has to be perfect every time, it
Hmm.
has to be flawless. And now I hear the next generation coming behind us. Well, they're literally having anxiety because they want to be perfect. They want to look perfect. They want,
Yeah.
and so because this is so pushed into the social media space, if you don't nail that picture or selfie the right way the first time, if you don't do your reel or your speech or whatever for social media perfect the very first time, then it turns inward and it's almost like you're mentally abusing yourself. You're emotionally abusing yourself. So
For
what do you
sure.
think
I want to apologize to your generation and to everyone else because I think we have um, made perfection an idol, and we need to tear down the idol. We need to understand that the audience that you're speaking to doesn't want it to be perfect because they're dealing with perfectionism and trying to kick it in their own life. What people want is they want to be a part of your journey. So when I think about Rhonda Geddes, who started with me 6 or 7 years ago when I was on Periscope, and to where I am now, a lot of times people will say, people will see the glory of where I am now, but not understand my story, not understand that when I started, Camille, I just took messy action. I committed to taking messy action. In fact, you can go somewhere in these digital streets and find my first videos, and they are terrible. It is hot. It's a hot mess express. You don't have to tell me, I will tell you that it's bad. But I had to start somewhere. Everyone has a genesis. No one starts perfect. They start with it messy, and we later evolved to the studio that you see here before you. We didn't start here. I started with a white wall behind me and a message in my heart. We grew to this. And so we have to understand that messy is a part of us getting better. We have to take messy action in order for us to progress. Because, this is what I said this weekend. I was speaking at an event and I said this, and I think this is going to make you laugh, but it's also going to put some things in perspective. I was talking to the audience about creating content and taking this messy action. And I said, I already know what you're going to say. You're like, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. How do I start? Well, you didn't know how to do puberty, but somehow we made it through.
Hot mess. Hot
Some
mess.
some of us didn't know how to do marriage. Listen, you're still trucking. There's a lot of things we didn't know how to do, but we just got started, took some messy action, learned some things. Okay, I won't do that again. Okay, that worked really well. I'll keep doing that. And you grow. How do you grow if it's perfect? You grow in failure. You grow when it's messy.
What is that saying? You don't fail unless you quit. As long as you don't quit, that's when you only quit when you only failed when you actually quit.
Yes, exactly. We need to, you know what we need to start doing? We need to start celebrating and putting on social media when you had a failure. We need to
Mhm.
start like, well, that didn't work. And here's the thing about failure too. I talk to my kids about this. Listen, we either learn or we win. So even what we consider a failure, is it really a failure or you just learned that didn't work, I won't do that again, or let's try something differently. So I think we just need to learn how to celebrate when things don't work because you're on your way to what does work.
That's good, and that brings me to my next point as far as the humanity of a brand, because it
Yeah.
seems like sometimes now with social media, particularly with the introduction of TikTok and Reels and stories,
Hmm.
that I was just having this conversation earlier with someone, and what they demand for you to go viral, it kind of pulls you away from the core of who you are and your brand.
Yeah.
They want you to do a dance, or they want you to create a skit or reenact a scene from a movie, or
Hmm.
and for me, I really pulled back for a minute because I got so flustered trying to come up with another reel, another post, another whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, this is not even what I do. Like, I'm podcasting. Why do I feel like I need to reenact a skit from BMF? Or, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? It's just so left. And it's like, yes, we're content creators, we're brand ambassadors, we're messengers, podcasters, but what about the humanity of your brand when you're telling your story, you're showing up, you're being your authentic self, and not just a gimmick or puppet for the powers that be?
Yeah. You know, we have to remember that people buy people. So we have to keep it human. We have to keep it real. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you permission, Camille, and everyone else who's listening to this, okay? The best content you can ever create is content that's your own thought leadership, your own insight, your own wisdom, your own life lessons, your origin story, your journey. That's the best content you can ever create. And when I think about what has had me go viral or what has gotten me to the places where, in partnership working with LinkedIn Learning and working with the Kellogg Foundation twice and Boeing and the Today Show twice, what's got me there is not dancing. Listen, are there a couple of dance videos on my thing that I do with my kids? Yeah, because I'm a mom. It's fun. We do it, right? But the thing that's always gotten me to the places that I've wanted to be and to work with the brands that I've wanted to work with goes back to Camille leaning into my own thought leadership, leaning into the wisdom and the knowledge and my own journey. And so while the skits are great, I do a couple of them and doing the trending sounds, yeah, they're cool. But the thing that will always be on trend is your voice, your wisdom, your journey, your story.
So, how can someone break their story? There are people out there with traumatic origins or a messy beginning.
Yeah.
How do people, even myself, how do you become okay with sharing that and it doesn't make you cringe? For me, my first phase of doing
Hmm.
that was through therapy and healing, because
Yes.
I feel like some people don't want to tell their story because they feel like they're having to emotionally revisit some places. And for me,
Hmm.
that feels like a sign that you're not healed from that. So
Right.
I think in my own thought process, heal first and be okay
Hmm.
with your story and reclaim the power that you feel like that situation, person, or event took from you. And then when you get to that space, then begin to share.
Yeah, you just answered it. First of all, I want to give you kudos for doing your inner work. I tell people all the time that visibility is power, but visibility starts as an inside job. So I love the fact that you're doing the inner work and you've healed through those places. I think one of the things that's most powerful in and I learned this from I can't take the credit. Bishop R. Christopher Brown says this. He says, "Make pain pay." And I'm a big believer of that, making pain pay. And so, how do we do that? We reclaim our story. But in that process of reclaiming your story, you want to make sure that it is a story that you have healed and processed. There's a whole trend on TikTok, and it's actually a hashtag, Camille, called trauma TikTok.
Really?
Like, why did we? Don't even go look it up. It's too much. Okay. So why did we make that a trending hashtag? And it's people sharing their trauma stories. But in what's happened with that is that you have strangers trauma bonding. Okay.
That's
That's
scary. That's scary.
totally scary. So I'm a big believer of sharing from a place where you are well, you are healed, and that this is not opening up old wounds for you to reshare. The other thing with that, when we're sharing stories that may be messy or traumatic, is how much of this do you need to share? Do you need to
Mhm.
go into all of the details, right?
Mhm.
Is this a story that you even need to share that will resonate with your audience?
Right.
So for me, one of the stories that I share is advanced trigger warning here. One of the stories that I share is I talk about the fact of what was a major transition for me in catapulting me into entrepreneurship was a home invasion at gunpoint.
Wow.
This happened about 9 years ago with my family, and it was during the day, it wasn't at night, but that was my major aha moment. That was my major burning bush experience, I call it,
Mhm.
because in that moment, I realized that I was living life very insignificant and very small. The woman you see today was birthed out of that experience. Now, depending on where I am, I may go into details. Sometimes I may scratch the surface. Sometimes where I am, that story is not even relevant to the
Right.
people that I'm speaking to. So I think also, as people who are storytellers, and facts tell, but stories sell, we have to do our due diligence in understanding what part of our story does our audience really need to hear. So I'm going to share with you a quick exercise that anybody can do this. And
Okay.
actually, if you've been in middle school, you've probably done this exercise. So it's taking out a sheet of paper, and on one side of the sheet of paper, it's writing down your story, like just your little bullet points, right? Writing down your story. And on the other side of the paper, it's going back through and putting a highlight or circle around the stories that you feel comfortable sharing, and identifying which of those stories will connect and resonate with your audience. Because what we all have to understand as storytellers and using storytelling in marketing is we're just a couple of years removed from our audience. That
Mhm.
means the people that you are called to serve were once you. Think about that.
It's almost
They
like you're
were
speaking back to yourself.
correct. Exactly. So can I just, I know, I feel like I'm all over the place, but this
Go
is going to be
ahead.
really good.
You have the floor, Ro.
Okay. The other thing that I want to just put in there as well as a little sidebar is if you are a new entrepreneur, please, sir, please, ma'am, hear me out. Please journal your experience. Here's why. One of the major tenets of storytelling is connecting to the emotion. And for some of us, we didn't journal through that experience. So we're trying to drudge back up. Okay, how did I feel when I was learning how to get comfortable on camera? What was that like? What was the emotions? What were the things I was feeling? But if you're journaling your entrepreneur experience, you can then go back into your journal and pull back up those feelings and those emotions and start to use that in your videos, start to use that in your marketing copy because you know what they need because you once were them.
That's good. I never thought about that. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, I
Journal.
knew it in my prayer journal, but I never
Yes.
thought to go back and reach and grab some of those things and then turn that into content.
Yes. You're
That's why you're
welcome.
here. That's why you're here. That's why. Okay, if you have not done so, I need you to like, comment, share.
Please.
Roshanda Pratt is here. She's dropping major bars, and if you're not sharing this, shame on you because she is giving out the game for the free 99 tonight. So please do that. Um, Going back into that, which also leads into bleeding, because you see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people bleeding on social media. They're going on live and they're literally crying on their lives, uh,
Yeah.
whether if it's someone died or divorced or whatever it is. So let's kind of go into that space of bleeding into safe spaces where there are no lights and there are no cameras.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
This is so interesting because I know for me, there are times where I talk about certain things and I may get emotional about it because I remember when. I was doing an interview early this week and I was talking about my journey from, leaving my television news job and betting on myself. And I got a little emotional in that. Not sad, but just overwhelmed with, man, I remember when we were here and now look at where we are now, right? I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to take a certain level of responsibility with this device in our hand. See, the
Yes.
smartphone is now the new remote control. And now the remote control is in everyone's hands. Camille, being a journalist of 20 years, everyone didn't have access to control the narrative. The only way you could control the narrative is by being on TV, being invited on or pitching the media. But now everybody can just go live or post a video, and now they have control of the narrative. But what we have to understand, and I'm trying to do my part here, is really giving people media literacy and understanding that your visibility comes with a responsibility.
Mhm.
It's my responsibility that if I open up a place and a space and a wound to talk about the pain or the trauma that I have, it is my responsibility to make sure I stitch it back closed. So even when I'm talking to people about that home invasion at gunpoint, it leads them to, hey, this is what the end result is, a happier place, right? And that's something I actually learned in television when we would put together our newscast. One of the things I remember my early years as a journalist, one of my EP's executive producer told me, she said, Roshanda, you do not want to take people on a emotional roller coaster. How many times have you turned on your local media and it's like death, 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 and puppy dog? And you're like, wait a second, this was too heavy. So she would tell me, she's like, it's your responsibility as a producer not to overload people with all of that. Let's break up some of the bad news and let's put it together in a way that's taking people not on an emotional roller coaster, but it's giving them the information that they need, but they're not feeling overwhelmed after they left. So my personal responsibility, and I hope your personal responsibility, everyone who's watching this live or in the replay, is this: it's my responsibility to make my corner of the internet better, whatever that better may look like. It's
Yeah,
my responsibility to make this corner of the internet better. And
that's
we
good.
have to take on that responsibility as content creators, influencers, whatever you call yourself. You are supposed to make it better and healthier.
That's really good. Also, too, I think that when people have these moments on social media, they forget there's a thing called memories. That stuff is
Yes.
going to cycle back. And
Right.
what if you had a meltdown and you did a Tyrese a session on Instagram Live, and
Yes.
then it comes back around 5 years later or 10 years later, and you're not even in that space anymore. But that
Right.
that you had, it could re-trigger you. It could re-trigger someone
Mm-hmm.
else that's following or listening to you. So I like what you said about bringing it back around. Yes, we do have to share information. Like on my Instagram page, I do share things that happen in the Black community. It's important,
Yes.
but I bring it back around. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't put it out there every day. But I
Right.
do think people forget there's a feature now called memories, and it happens.
Yes. One of my mentees was doing a lot of work in the advocacy space, especially after George Floyd. And it seemed like every week there was a report of someone African American being gunned down, just every time. And she's just was really just overwhelmed by it. And one of the things that I told her, I said, here's the deal: it is not your responsibility to take on solving this entire problem.
Mhm.
But what you have to do is be responsible. If I'm going to tell you that this is a problem, I'm also going to provide you the solution. So one of the things I challenged her and said, when was the last time that while you're talking so much about this gun violence and gun violence against Black men? When have you also told people to write letters to their local representatives? When have you told people to get involved in these organizations that are providing support, et cetera, et cetera? I said, if we're going to talk about the problem in the same breath, you need to provide the solution. That is part of being responsible.
I always use the analogy of the thermostat versus the thermometer. And I always
Yeah.
ask the question, which are you? Because if you're a thermometer, all you're doing is reporting the environment. You're just reporting the situations. It's
So
hot,
good.
it's cold.
Hmm.
That's all you're doing. But the thermostat not only reports what's going on with the environment, but then it'll make an adjustment so everyone is comfortable. So you have an option. You can be a thermostat or you can choose to be a thermometer.
So good. Exactly. And you got to make a choice. Which one are you going to be?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that.
So what do you feel like has been your greatest reward within yourself outside of media? Even though yes, you're in media, but being in media, what has been your greatest reward personally in that journey?
Wow. That's a really good question. Um, okay, so there's two. Can I give two rewards?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's been really a blessing for me is that I worked in TV for 20 years, and my parents are immigrants to this country. My West Indian father is the reason why I became a journalist because in the fourth grade he told me I needed to watch the news. He said, as an American citizen, I should know more about your country and your community than you do. So my friends were watching, the Smurfs, and I was watching Tom Brokaw, learning about Reaganomics and the Gulf War.
Ooh,
And one of the things that I have taken in my 20 years is just the responsibility to stay curious. And in that, I've been able to pitch really great stories that have impacted communities, and I'm very proud of that. And because of that, this is not bragging, I think it's just my work in that, is that I have put myself in a position that if I ever wanted to go back to TV, I could find a TV job because again, I didn't leave it and burned a bridge, but it was one of those things of I left the industry and I made sure, just like I do in the internet world, that I wanted to make it better while I was there. I think as an entrepreneur, the thing that I am most proud of is that I continue to bet on myself and give myself permission to do so, and then I teach others how to do the same.
that's good. As far as touching on that point, as far as burning bridges, we see a lot of transition of those that are in corporate America doing the 9 to 5, and they're like, I'm a
Hmm.
full-time entrepreneur, and they kind of, as I call it, FOD, flesh on display. They get caught up, and then
Yes.
you burn that corporate bridge, and then you have
Hmm.
a hiccup in your entrepreneurial journey. Now you
Yeah.
can go back to corporate America because you arrived
Hmm.
and you're self-made and you're a full-time entrepreneur, not
Yeah.
realizing that being full-time entrepreneur is cyclical. You have your ups and your downs. So
For
sometimes you have
sure.
to slide back on over to the
Yeah.
office. So can you touch on the importance of fostering and maintaining those relationships even when you're crossing over into full-time entrepreneurship? Because as you said, you can go back and get a new job if you wanted to.
Right. Your network is your net worth. Your net your network is your net worth. And I'm a firm believer that while I was working at my last CBS affiliate job, that they were my angel investor. They were my silent business partner and didn't know it because that paycheck is what helped me to hire a coach or to pay for my website or to do all these other upgrades and all these other things. So we have to look at our corporate job differently. And I think some of this, Camille, really comes from social media fantasizing entrepreneurship. Like if you're not
Romanticizing it. Yeah.
yeah, oh, if you're not an entrepreneur, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship where it's at, and you're just kind of like, listen, if you can finesse both of these things at the same time, go for it. So, I mean, so stop like romanticizing this thing. And then I think we also have to stop vilifying people if they decide to work a nine to thrive. Because here's the thing, we all have to have workers. If I'm building my business to be a company, that means I have to have people who work for me. So we have to stop, because I don't know about you, Camille. It's really hard to hire other entrepreneurs to work with you as an entrepreneur. Because why? They're working with other people.
Yes, yes.
So you
And
need workers.
they're dreaming on the clock. They are dreaming on the clock.
That is exactly right. So that means we have to have workers. So everyone is not called to entrepreneurship. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Everyone is not called to entrepreneurship. You're not. And so don't feel bad if you're not an entrepreneur. You're just like, no, I like my job, or I'm just going to stay here and this is what I'm doing.
Or it's just
Everybody's not called to this life.
yeah, and where I work, it's so funny. I work in a plaza, and
Mm-hmm.
even though you have all these people, lawyers, whatever, if you pay
Mm-hmm.
attention, there are people ducked off outside in corners, and they're having their phones out doing content.
Correct.
And I'm like, you're a lawyer, but you're doing content. Or you see people walking with their phone down the street in Uptown
Yes.
Charlotte, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
grab their lunch, whatever, whatever, and then they go back to work. And
Yeah.
it used to be years ago, you would think it's strange if someone's outside, like, but now it's just a norm. It's a cultural
It's the
norm
norm.
on their
I was
phone.
in the airport seeing people do dance things on TikTok, and I just was like, wow, my oh my, haven't how things have changed. This has
Yeah,
now become a normal thing.
because if that was 10 years ago, we would probably try to hand them out an I Love Me jacket because we would think there's something wrong.
Right.
But that's hilarious. So I love that, and the whole thing about being vilified to work a 9 to thrive, not a 9 to 5,
Yes.
but a 9 to thrive. I did catch that.
Yes.
So I think that's important. And then also a last point: what is the difference between motivating your followers and viewers or listeners versus straight up gaslighting and calling it
Mm,
motivation?
that's good.
Because to
Yeah,
me,
Whitney Victoria, I take my
it's giving
tripod with me everywhere too.
it's giving narcissism, and I'm like, what's going on?
Right. Um I just I am not going to hang around any content creator and just allow them to abuse me, to stay and watch their video, to like it, to heart it, to share it, whatever. I'm just not going to do that, right? People don't owe you a view. They don't owe you a share, right? We create this in the sense of to build community and connection and all of those things. And so I think one of the things is if you're with someone who's bullying you, because I've seen it, and I'm just thinking, like, why are people paying attention to this person? People need to stop listening so they can correct their behavior. But if we as viewers and other people in the content creation space don't call this out, right? Then people think it's okay to do that because, well, I have 10,000 views and people are still, giving me business and they're still paying attention to me. So I think, again, responsibility, and we have a responsibility, I think, to actually notify people that you're being gaslit. This is not motivation. This is being bullied, and stop it. Don't let people treat you like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Last question, Ro. You have
Hmm.
a beautiful family, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're wearing
Yes,
beautiful hats. So can you speak? I'm single. You're praying and waiting on the Lord or
yes,
Jesus.
do it, God.
Do it, God. Shondo. But but we have married ladies and gentlemen in here and they tune in.
Yeah.
What can you say to my married audience as far as being an entrepreneur, the importance of choosing your mate, choosing your
Hmm.
fate, your purpose partner, and when you are chasing your dream, the importance of having that support and that backing as a creative?
Man, that is such a big question. So I think number one, what's really important is having someone who sees you bigger than you see yourself, and someone who will push and rally for you, more than you will push and rally for yourself. The reason why I'm here, and this has come to light even bigger this week, is because my husband told me to go bet on myself. We were doing a lot of traveling while I was working as a a multi-platform producer at the time, and we were traveling with this message of live streaming and visibility is power. And I had ran out of vacation days, and we were, doing this thing on the weekend and flying out, or driving to places all across the Southeast. And he just told me, I said, I think you need to take a bet on yourself. And I'm like, what does that mean? Are you telling me to quit this job, sir? I will write this resignation in the car.
You trying to get that
But
soft life?
listen, soft life, right? And he said, no, I think you need to take a bet on yourself. And I can tell you, all throughout, we just celebrated 18 years together.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, through that time, he's always been the one to tell me, you need to bet on yourself. You need to think bigger. He actually was the one, honestly, who introduced me to, before there was a thing called marketplace ministry, right, Camille? Before that was a thing, my husband was the one who told me, you need to be praying for your clients. I didn't even know about that. I was looking at him like, I mean, I remember telling him, I was like, I'm not doing that. He said, why wouldn't you? I was like, that feels strange. I mean, I don't think God cares about my business. And he was like, yes, he does. And
Market
this was
media
like,
and the market ministry and market media ministry and marketplace.
yeah, like I just
Yeah.
didn't see what I didn't see. And
Right.
so it's really good. It's really important to pick someone who sees you bigger than you see yourself, and that is not intimidated by your bigness, but walks right alongside you because you're big together and you're doing big things together. And that's what me and Mr. Pratt are doing. We're doing big things together. The other thing, as far as being a mom, and a wife and all the things, is I have learned early on to embrace harmony instead of work life balance. Balance doesn't exist because it would denote that things need to be created equal. And how do you know? How many like tonight, if we're having this discussion, and if my 5-year old had to be rushed to the emergency room, what do you think is more important? I'm gonna
Exactly.
have to say, Camille, sorry, I had to take my 5-year old to the hospital, right? Let's take a rain check.
Right.
So everything is not gonna be balanced. But what we do is we work in harmony and in sync. And so how do I get all the things to work in harmony? And so one of the things that we do is we have a family calendar. And if it's not on the calendar, it's not real. My kids know that, everybody knows that. And so we put things on a calendar so we can have our lives working in harmony. You all, if you hang out with me on the Rose Show Live, you guys are probably Baby Show's internet aunties, and you guys know about Jael and Jamin and Mr. Pratt. My husband will tell me he'll go places, and people will come up to him and say, "Hey, Jacoby, so good to see you." And he's like, "I don't even know who that person is." And they're like, "Oh, I know you from your wife's page," right? Because that's harmony for me, because my family is very much a part of what I'm doing and what I'm building here. My son edits my videos. My 15-year-old daughter is my TikTok producer. So I learned very early on too, Camille, that include your family in what you're doing. Don't exclude them, because that will make it very difficult.
That's
So
good.
have them a part of the vision and what you're doing. And that's also creating legacy too. And then another thing that we do is the Pratts are going to have big fun. We work, we're diligent in our work, but we're also going to be diligent in playing as well. So
That's,
those are my pieces of advice.
I love it. And the kids, they're getting a leg into media early. So they
Yes,
already have that experience, digital media experience, because that's a new genre or industry as
right.
far as the workforce. So that's amazing.
Yeah, when your 5-year-old Baby Show says to me today, she's like, "Hey, can we do a TikTok today?" Ma'am, how do you even know this is called a TikTok? Just stop it.
Right. So as we begin to wrap up, do you have any takeaways or nuggets or gems that you would like to leave with our listeners and viewers, and then also where people can connect with you on social media?
Sure. It's what I say all the time, and I want to say it to your audience as well. You no longer have the right to remain silent. Your silence is not golden. You deserve to be seen, heard, and paid. And the impact, influence, and income that you desire to make is on the other side of this screen. Your visibility is power. You can follow me all across social media at The Rose Show Live. That's TheRosholive. The Rose Show Live.
Thank you. Bro, I truly appreciate you coming in and returning to the Speaker podcast. It is definitely been a blessing to me. It's an honor to have you. I cannot wait. Hopefully, we won't wait as long as before to be back. I think we just get, we forget that we have people we can reach out to sometimes, and we get flustered with that. And I want to say to our viewers and listeners, don't forget you have resources. Sometimes life will overwhelm you and you feel like you don't have a resource or circle. You do. Sometimes you just have to reach back in your bag and go through that digital Rolodex and say, oh, yeah, I do have connections, and utilize those connections and max them out. So thank you.
Honored.
Me too. Be sure to follow me, everyone, on Instagram at Camille.Essick. And I'm also on YouTube at Camille Essick Official. So be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. Again, thank you to those that tune in tonight. Shout out to Whitney and Khalil, Courtney, and my source. Yes, the network, Whitney, that's correct. Auntie T. Brown and a few others that popped in and out. Megan, thank you for hopping in. One of my church members, Faith Covenant. What's up, y'all? Atlanta FCC. Thank you so much.
I love it.
Yes. Mansoor, Courtney, that's my two. Thank you so much. Again, I hope you all got something from this. Next week, tune in. I'm going to have some fellas on. I said fellas with an S. So that is the conversation. Okay. You do not want to miss. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it just yet. So you guys tune in. But yeah, let me know what you think about this episode. Drop some comments below, like, comment, share, and I'll see you guys next week at 8 o'clock. The Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. You all be blessed and have a good night. Bye.
Good night.